The security camera showed her walking through the entrance at exactly 9:47 p.m. 23-year-old Maya Chun stepped into the Riverside shopping complex in Portland, Oregon, wearing a red jacket and carrying a small black purse. But here is what made investigators freeze when they reviewed the footage. Maya never came out. Maya had moved to Portland 6 months earlier to start her new job as a graphic designer at a tech startup downtown. She lived alone in a modest apartment in the Pearl District, and her routine was predictable and careful. Her coworkers described her as quiet, organized, and always on time. That Thursday evening, she had texted her best friend Rachel, saying she needed to pick up a birthday gift for her mother. The Riverside complex seemed like the perfect place, opened until midnight, with dozens of stores and restaurants spread across 3 floors. Rachel was the first to notice something was wrong. When Maya did not respond to her messages by midnight, she felt a small knot of worry in her chest. Maya always replied, sometimes within seconds. By morning, when Maya had not shown up for work and her phone went straight to voicemail, Rachel called the police. The officers took the report but seemed hesitant at first. Young adults sometimes disappear for a day or two, they said, but Rachel insisted this was different. Maya would never just vanish without telling anyone. Detective Laura Briggs was assigned to the case 2 days later. She was a veteran investigator with 15 years of experience, and something about this disappearance felt strange to her from the start. She requested all security footage from the shopping complex, and that is when she saw it. Maya entered through the main entrance on the east side at 9:47 p.m., walking with purpose, her face calm and focused. Detective Briggs and her team watched every camera in the building, tracking every exit, every stairwell, every service door. They reviewed 12 hours of continuous footage from over 60 cameras. Maya Chun never appeared again after that initial entrance. The Riverside complex was massive, a 3-story structure with over 90 retail spaces, 4 parking levels, and a network of maintenance corridors that connected everything. Detective Briggs organized a full sweep of the building. Officers walked every hallway, checked every storage room, interviewed every employee who had been working that night. They found nothing. No witnesses remembered seeing a woman in a red jacket. No employees recalled any disturbance or unusual activity. It was as if Maya had simply dissolved into thin air the moment she stepped inside. Maya's red jacket was eventually found 5 days after her disappearance. A janitor discovered it folded neatly inside a storage closet on the 2nd floor, tucked behind boxers of cleaning supplies. The closet was in a section of the complex that had been closed for renovation, an area with no active security cameras. Detective Briggs put on gloves and examined the jacket carefully. There were no signs of struggle, no tears, no stains. In the pocket she found Maya's phone, turned off, and a receipt from a jewelry store on the 3rd floor, time-stamped at 10:14 p.m. This changed everything. Maya had been inside the complex for at least 27 minutes after entering, long enough to visit a store and make a purchase. Detective Briggs went to the jewelry store immediately. The owner, an older man named Mr. Patel, remembered Maya clearly. She had bought a silver bracelet for her mother, paid in cash, and seemed completely normal. She thanked him, smiled, and left through the main corridor heading toward the central atrium. That was the last confirmed sighting of Maya Chun. Detective Briggs studied the layout obsessively. The central atrium was the heart of the complex, a wide-open space with skylights and decorative fountains, surrounded by escalators and elevators. It was also one of the most heavily monitored areas in the entire building. Yet somehow, Maya had walked toward it and then vanished. Briggs began to suspect that someone had deliberately disabled or manipulated the camera system. She brought in a digital forensics team to examine the footage. What they discovered sent a chill through everyone involved. Between 10:16 p.m. and 10:34 p.m., the cameras in the central atrium had been looped. Someone had replaced 18 minutes of live footage with a recording from earlier that evening. It was sophisticated work, the kind that required technical knowledge and access to the security system. The investigation took on a new intensity. Detectives began looking into everyone who had access to the security office, every employee with technical skills, every contractor who had worked on the system. They discovered that a maintenance worker named Eric Donovan had been fired 3 weeks before Maya's disappearance for violating company policy. He had been caught accessing areas of the building outside his assigned duties. When detectives went to question him, They found his apartment abandoned, his belongings gone, his lease terminated the day after Maya vanished. A search warrant was issued, and investigators combed through Eric's digital footprint. They found unsettling evidence on his laptop, which he had left behind in his hurry to leave. There were dozens of photos taken inside the Riverside complex. Many of them focused on women shopping alone. There were screenshots of the security camera system, diagrams of the maintenance tunnels, and a folder labeled with dates and times. One of those dates was the night Maya disappeared. But the breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A homeless man named Robert, who often slept near the loading docks behind the complex, came forward after seeing Maya's face on the news. He told Detective Briggs that he had seen a maintenance van leave the loading area around 10:45 p.m. at that night, which was unusual because deliveries and maintenance usually happened during the day. He remembered it because the van had been driving fast, too fast for the narrow alley. Briggs pulled traffic camera footage from the surrounding streets and tracked the van. It belonged to the shopping complex, and the last person to check it out had been Eric Donovan. The van was found 6 days later in a long-term parking lot near Seattle, Washington, 200 miles north of Portland. It had been wiped clean, but forensic teams found traces of hair and fabric fibers that matched Maya's red jacket. They also found something else. A small silver bracelet, still in its jewelry store bag, tucked under the passenger seat. It was the bracelet Maya had bought for her mother. Eric Donovan was arrested 2 weeks later at a motel outside Vancouver, Canada. He had been moving frequently, paying in cash, trying to disappear. Under interrogation, he remained silent for hours, his expression blank and unreadable. But eventually, faced with overwhelming evidence, he confessed. He had been obsessed with Maya for weeks, watching her on the security cameras every time she visited the complex. On that Thursday night, he had followed her, waited until she was near the atrium, and then used his access to the security system to create a blind spot. He had lured her into a maintenance corridor with a fake emergency, then forced her into the van through the loading dock. He claimed it was never supposed to go that far, that he only wanted to talk to her, but his story kept changing, and investigators did not believe him. Maya's body was found 3 days after Eric's arrest, buried in a remote wooded area outside of Olympia, Washington. The location matched details Eric had finally provided in exchange for a plea deal. Her family was devastated, but at least they had answers. At least they could bring her home. Detective Laura Briggs stood at Maya's memorial service, surrounded by hundreds of people whose lives had been touched by the young woman's kindness and creativity. Rachel gave a eulogy, her voice shaking but strong, talking about her best friend's dreams and the future that had been stolen from her. Briggs thought about all the cases she had worked, all the families she had met, and she felt the weight of this one settle deep in her chest. Maya Chun had walked into a public place on an ordinary evening, doing something as simple as buying a gift for her mother. She had every reason to feel safe, but one person's obsession, one person's decision to act on dark impulses, had erased her from the world in a matter of minutes. The security footage that should have protected her had been turned into a weapon against her. As the service ended and people began to leave, Briggs made a quiet promise. She would never stop fighting for victims like Maya, for the people who deserve to feel safe in their own lives. Because the truth is, most of us walk through the world assuming we will make it home. We enter buildings, we shop, we go about our routines, never imagining that everything could change in an instant. Maya's story is a reminder that evil can hide in the most ordinary places, behind the most familiar faces. And sometimes, the only thing standing between justice and darkness is someone willing to search for the truth. No matter how long it takes, or how painful the answers might be, Maya Chun deserved better. She deserved to give her mother that bracelet, to live her life, to grow old and create all the things she had dreamed of. Instead, she became a ghost in a shopping mall, a face on a missing person poster, and finally, a name we will never forget.